Rutgers men's basketball facing Princeton in a neutral court environment at the Prudential Center, the Rock, on Saturday in Newark. FS1, the great John Fanta and Jim Spinarkle on the call. And obviously a big game for both teams. A rematch from last year, which Rutgers lost the season opener. In Trenton, sales for this game are pretty good. Sounds like over 10,000 already. Believe they're opening an extra section, and it should be a really good environment. There'll be more Princeton fans than last time, but the overwhelming should be Rutgers fans. And it's a big game, and it's a lot of star power in this game. Obviously, Dylan and Ace for Rutgers, Xavier Lee, Caden Pierce for Princeton, Blake Peters. This is a good Princeton team. It's not a great Princeton team. It's a good Princeton team. They're 8-4 right now. Their Ken Palm's 115. People look at their losses and they look at the names of the teams. They don't realize those teams are still, pretty solid mid-major teams. They've lost to Loyola Chicago, who's 104 in Ken Palm. They lost to Wright State and Texas State in neutral environments. Wright State is 151, Texas State 130. And they lost to Furman on the road. Good team, 121. They have beaten St. Joe's on the road by 8. That was a big win for them. St. Joe's number 94. They beat Merrimack, which is 189. And they beat Northeastern, which is 150. Both of those were on the road. So this Princeton team is not going to be phased. They're not going to be intimidated. They can light it up from 3. Obviously, a concern if you're a Rutgers fan. But this is a big opportunity for Rutgers to kind of take a step forward. I think the mental preparation in this game is huge. Coming out ready to play from the get-go. I think the environment will help with that regard. But you have this is where the value of Zach Martini, obviously the longtime Princeton player, knows them inside and out. Jared Carino had a great article with Martini talking about how he said he didn't call himself an assistant coach. He's more of a cheater because he knows Princeton inside and out. But he is really going to be an asset for this team in terms of his teammates and communicating and them just being prepared for what to expect. And this is the type of game where Rutgers, obviously they have to close out at the 3-point line. Princeton has multiple shooters. They're 40th in the country right now as a team, shooting 38.1% from 3. They are multiple shooters here. Xavier Lee, 38.8%, 19-49. Dalen Davis, 6-foot sophomore. Lee, 6'4", by the way. Dalen Davis, 6-foot sophomore, 27-66 for 40.9%. He's been their most accurate in terms of efficiency. Actually, right along with Blake Peters, who's 40.5% at 74 attempts. And then you have Philip Byrel, the 6'9" center, who's really kind of stepped it up a stretch 5. He's 14-37. You also have Caden Pierce, 6'7" junior, who's 9-24. So they have to defend the arc well. They have to have awareness. But really, 1 through 5 can shoot it up for Princeton. So this is the kind of game defensively I actually think that helps Rutgers because they can focus on closing out on threes, using their size. Byrel is 6'9", Pierce is 6'7", but Davis is 6 foot, Lee 6'4", Peters is 6'1". Rutgers has length and size and athleticism on the perimeter. Physicality in this game is going to be huge from a Rutgers perspective. Being physical without fouling. Princeton, Xavier Lee, they're going to throw the book at him. I'm sure a combination of Jeremiah Williams, Jamichael Davis, and Jordan Durkak will be thrown at Lee throughout this game. Pico loves throwing multiple defenders at the best offensive player for the other team. And really the key is being physical with him without fouling. He is very good. He's one of the most efficient players in terms of drawing fouls. He's 168th nationally. Fouls drawn over a 40-minute rate, 168th. So in terms of Lee, he is the straw that stirs the drink for Princeton. He's the 14th highest assist rate in the country, 38.5%. And, he's a very good rebounding guard for his size. One of the best, and he's 334th nationally in defensive rebounding rate. But he's a playmaker, and he made Rutgers pay last year. friend of the podcast, Richard Kent, very adamant that this is the best guard that Rutgers will play this year. He did not like when I disagreed with him last year. And Steve Peichel said it as well to Jerry Carino. I have to respectfully disagree to both of them because the best guard that Rutgers will face this year is their own Dylan Harper in practice every day. But Xavier Lee is very good, but he is not invincible. And he's had when he's pressured and when you can be physical with him, he could struggle. And he's had some even against the Ivies. I mean, last year in the semis against Dartmouth, he struggled. Rutgers just has to really pay attention to him. They can't let him get space. He's very quick. He's crafty. He's a big-time shot maker. But if they can slow him down, frustrate him, that's going to do wonders in terms of slowing down Princeton. But they have a ton of shooters that can fill it up. I mean, Byrell against St. Joe's was 6 of 8 from behind the arc. So you have to be cognizant of where all their shooters are on the floor at all times. I mean, when they beat St. Joe's, they were 11 of 25 from 3 in that game. Byrell's the one that really went off. And just in terms of the flow, Rutgers with the pace, they need to come out and dictate things right from the get-go. And I don't know if they're going to press a little bit to mix things up. I think they should at times. But in terms of the rim defense, I mean, for me personally, this is a game where I think you can play Hayes and you can play Martini more. I know they've been getting beat off the ball, off the bounce. But this is not that style as much as Princeton likes to play. They like to fill it up from the perimeter. And the size of Martini and Hayes, 6'6", 6'8", that's going to be more disruptive on the perimeter. And again, on the flip side, Rutgers has to be able to space the floor in this game. I am a little concerned about the Princeton zone here. I think that they will play some zone at times. Will Rutgers counter with, is it Dylan Harper? Is it Ace Bailey? Posting up at the top of the free throw line, similarly to how they used to combat the zone with Paul Mulcahy and have them be kind of a point forward there in that position. But they have to move the ball. The ball can't stick. If you play a little ISO game, I mean, obviously Dylan, breaking down his defenders and getting downhill is key, but it can't be pass the ball around, dribble, make a move and take a contested 18-footer. An Ace, I mean, I just don't know who Princeton's going to be able to match up with. I don't think they're going to be able to cover him. So he's got to be able to get downhill. If they can get him in the rim, I think they can dominate inside in this game. I mean, Princeton's not a good offensive rebounding team. They're 332nd nationally. They're a decent defensive rebounding team, but, they get blocked a lot inside. They don't have any blocks on the defensive end. They're 349th in defensive block rate. You need to attack Princeton, and you need to do so by moving the ball. Don't let the ball stick. Share the basketball. Attack. Kickouts will be there. Seton Hall did a really good job in terms of, kind of sealing off passing lanes in the kickoff off drives. And Princeton's just not at that level. They're not a great defensive team. They're 179th nationally in defensive efficiency. This is a game where, mentally you have to stay in it. You can't get down. If Princeton hits a couple threes in a row, they will inevitably at some point. But this is a game Rutgers is to come out ready to play from the get-go and really execute the game plan. And I think having Martini on the floor will help with that. But at the same time, Rutgers has to make some threes. Last year, Princeton was 9 of 20 from 3. Rutgers only made 4 threes. So Rutgers has to, they can't, be minus 20 in 3 points in this game. Obviously, points in the paint, Rutgers should dominate, but it's got to be within the flow of the offense. If you can get defensive rebounds, if you can get some blocks, look to run, look to use your athleticism, look to use your size and get to the rim. In terms of free throws, I mean, Princeton, in terms of they're about average in terms of foul rate and getting to the line. They're not particularly good from the line as a team offensively this year. They're just 258th at 68.7%. And they're about average at 2-point range. But Rutgers, this is a game where, Ace Bailey, I think this could be his first 30-point game of the season if they utilize him properly. This is a game where I think they could be really effective from 3 with multiple guys at, Acuff, Hayes, and Martini. they're going to need them in this game to hit some threes. Dylan's the maestro. I think if he can control the pace, you feel really good about your chances here. This is not an easy game. I know fans are, worried about it. It's a quad 3 game. Rutgers can't afford to lose it. This is a maturity game for Rutgers. This is a kind of take another step forward by winning this game. And then let's not forget, in terms of Princeton, Caden Pierce is, he's a bulldog. I think he had 6 offensive rebounds against Rutgers last year. He just does it all. He's 6'7". He can shoot it. He can, he's super aggressive. He's physical. And Rutgers has to bring it to him. In terms of defensively, who they match up with, I don't know if they put Ace on him. I'm not quite sure if maybe that's even Durkak, just because of the physicality standpoint. There's lots of different ways you can go about it. But this is certainly the 2 best players is Pierce and Lee. And you got to try to negate them as much as possible. But you can't listen. Princeton is the type of team they could beat you from 3 all over the place. So it's just, I think, awareness and executing this game plan is so important for Rutgers, and being smart in this game. And just, obviously you don't want to foul from behind the arc. Be smart, be aggressive without being reckless. And Rutgers has gotten reckless a little bit on the defensive end this year, just in terms of fouling way too much. And this is a game that they have to keep their heads about him. Leadership on the court, Jeremiah Williams. I think this is a game he can get into the lane. He can get downhill. I think Princeton's going to have trouble with him. If he can have a good offensive game, that's obviously going to be key. But Rutgers needs contributions from everyone. This is not something where they can just kind of expect to show up. I don't think they will. I think they understand. They've had a full week off here to prepare since the Seton Hall win. Finals week is over now. You kind of take a breath. It's the holidays. You're in a neutral court environment. It's a big game for New Jersey. And I think we'll see Rutgers rise to the occasion here. I'm excited to see this team play. I know people are, I talked about it this week. There's just a lot of negativity out there. Ken Pom is projecting a 4-point win for Rutgers, 79-75. Could be a really fun game. I mean, both teams kind of living it up on offense. But again, Rutgers controlling the pace. Lee versus Harper, they're not going to guard each other, but who controls this game, has more command of this game, and controls the pace of this game will be telling. And I think just in terms of Rutgers, they just can't get caught up in the ISO game. Princeton's going to try to force you to do that. They're going to try to force you to settle for long 2s, open 3s within the flow, kickouts, and get inside. Get out and run when you can. I would love to see them execute some full court pressure, some trapping, try to create some turnovers. Princeton doesn't turn it over much at all, which is 14.9%, 41 nationally. Rutgers is doing a fairly good job as well. They've struggled a little bit. I mean, the Seton Hall game, they just turned it over like crazy. And that was the frenetic pace that was set early on. Princeton's not going to ambush you like Seton Hall did defensively, but Rutgers can't be careless with the basketball. They have to value the basketball. If they can limit turnovers, if they can limit second chance points, if they can defend the arc, close out on shooters, they're going to be fine in this game. They just need to play together. They need to be connected on both ends of the court, and they need to keep their heads about them. And the crowd's going to be a big lift, I think, in this game. It's going to be, I think, a really fun college basketball game to watch. Rutgers should win it. And this, Pico said it in Carino's article, this is great preparation for Wisconsin, who's coming to the RAC in a couple weeks. They play very similar styles. But this is a game where, it's a very clear game plan for Rutgers, how to defend Princeton and how to attack them. And I think if they can come out and attack like they did against Penn State, obviously that's going to be huge for them. And I think getting out to a lead is it's not essential, but I think for this team's confidence, I think for this team's kind of just belief, playing a team like Princeton, they're not easy at all. They're frustrating. They're a very high IQ team. Mitch Henderson's a fantastic coach. Rutgers needs to exert their will early on, and obviously got to hit your free throws in this game. You have a week off now. You got your legs back, but catching yourself too, working yourself into the game, not forcing things early, limiting early turnovers, limiting bad shots early, getting into your defense, getting offense from your defense when you can, look to run when you can, and close out on threes, close out on threes, close out on threes. I really think the perimeter, their size on the perimeter can be a problem for Princeton, and that can really disrupt them in terms of what they're trying to do. And I think the X factor in this game is Martini, Hayes, and Acuff. If those guys can combine for 5+ threes in this game, I think Rutgers is going to have a really good chance to win the game. I don't think it has to happen for them to win, but I think that that's something that if it does happen, I think there's a really good chance they do win. And obviously, Ace and Dillon, there's nobody on the court that can slow them down. Again, Xavier Lee is fantastic, and so is Caden Pierce. But at the end of the day, Rutgers has 2 top-flight talents, and I don't think there's anyone on the floor that Princeton can defend them with, and they need to exploit that. But again, do that through team basketball. Don't force it down their throats. Don't, just ISO. Establish some connection offensively, flow, ball reversals, swing it. If there's a zone, be patient. Don't force bad shots. They have to play smart in this game. That kind of goes with that's kind of obvious, but it really is true. And this is a big step for them. They can win this game. You go into Christmas, Hanukkah, and you have Columbia on the 30th, and then you start Big Ten play, and it really starts to amp up here. But this is a big-time game for them, Q3 on a neutral court. Your home fans will be there with a lot of pride, and I think everyone will feel better if Rutgers can come out and play well in this game, and I think they will. Thank you so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful Podcast.